In our Beef Today report, corn futures prices have pulled back about $1.50 from the nearly $8 high set earlier this summer. However, the crop is still projected to be smaller than a year ago, which has livestock producers concerned about feed availability. That leads itself to the debate of food versus fuel. Ag Day regional reporter Michelle Rook has our story.
Feeding cattle is tough business every year, and up until the recent pullback in corn prices, producers were facing some negative margins.
Well, from a cattle feeder's perspective, outside the state of Minnesota, it is absolutely a nightmare. The margins are awful, awful, awful.
In fact, earlier this fall, closeouts were some of the worst ever in cattle feeding areas, as higher feed costs were compounded by high-priced feeders.
I've heard some triple-digit closeouts in the negative. It's probably safe to say that we're not quite there as an industry average as a whole yet. The key word there is perhaps yet.
While high-priced corn is great for grain producers, experts warn it can crush the demand from livestock feeders, which long-term isn't good for the industry.
If we run some of these livestock producers out of business because of the high price of corn, it's going to take a long time for them to recover.
Even though corn prices have set back from the record high set earlier this year, cattle producers say they're still historically high, and they're also concerned that a smaller U.S. crop this year will mean feed availability issues.
We're seeing some feed shortages down there in New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and the Kansas area.
The feed shortage there is a result of the drought, and that combined with more farmers storing corn this fall waiting for a rally is leaving livestock producers fearful they'll have to pay up for feed again this winter.
I think there's quite a bit of concern from anybody that's an end user of corn, whether it be an ethanol plant or a livestock feeder. Generally, when this corn gets locked down after harvest, it's pretty hard to pry it out of the farmer's bin until the first of the year.
With the fierce competition for corn, some cattlemen are once again calling on Congress to change ethanol policy.
As long as we have that federal mandate for ethanol, it's going to be very tough for the livestock industry to compete for for corn in the long term. We're forecasted that the ethanol industry is going to take more than 50% of our corn crop.
Not all cattlemen share that view. Some say ethanol has actually provided a lower cost feed alternative to corn.
Where we're able to coexist with the ethanol industry here and use a lot of the byproducts from that process in order to make us as livestock feeders more competitive.
And Reichman also says cattlemen are better equipped to acclimate to $6 or $7 corn than they were in 2008.
It seems as though there's plenty of room in both the cattle and the grain markets to provide margin for everything.
It's for that reason some market analysts think producers could see some record high prices for cattle in 2012, even if corn rallies.
I think that we can see cattle prices move higher in conjunction with higher priced corn. You might see next spring type number up at or above $1.30.
He says that price level will be high enough to offset higher feed costs, and it's already being reflected with the premium built into deferred live cattle futures. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Day.
Thanks, Michelle. Higher priced cattle will ultimately result in higher food prices. However, ag leaders say consumers may need to start getting used to paying more for food, especially with the growing demand around the world. And you can get many more updates on the beef industry, including market and production information from our partners at beeftoday.com.